legally, I have to tell you that we've started recording.
Right, okay, that's fine.
So just in case, say anything.
Legally? Wow.
Yeah, because just in case, because I've had a previous guests on before. Just say they happened to run the WCW back in the day.
Right.
And they said some stuff that they then asked me to go back and take out. So and so I have to give the legal disclaimer at the start.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll try and limit my sort of, controversial statements.
Okay, so I just want to finally welcome to the podcast someone that I've been stalking for years, Kenny McIntosh. Kenny, how are you doing today?
I'm good. You have been stalking me. I was trying to avoid you, but in the end, I was told by the police that it will probably be quicker to just give you an interview and then you'll leave me alone. So I'm going by their advice.
That's the way it goes. But I've got to start off with the one question you never get asked online ever by anyone.
Right.
Why no Belfast shows?
It's funny to me is that the people go, oh, why are you not coming to Belfast? We've been to Belfast. We were there this year. We were there last year. And then, so for example, Birmingham is one that we've been to a couple of times. And Birmingham performs very poorly, but apparently we should still bring everyone to Birmingham. But we're actually, we signed a deal yesterday for a show that's coming to Belfast in October. So there you go.
There you go. And I've just got free tickets. But this is not actually the first time that we've spoke, because I met you outside of the Edge show.
Mm-hmm. Not of you two, but Rated R Superstar Edge.
Yes. Well, although Bono was there.
Well, he's always the do-gooder bastard that he is.
He's a mark. But yes, I remember I met you outside. I think you were by like the entryway. But the problem is, I was going to come over and say hello and start talking to you. But the problem is, I'm 6'2" and I'm a big guy, and I was drunk and wearing all Adidas. So I thought if I go over there, and he's going to think I'm going to steal his fucking wine gums or whatever.
Well, I mean, let's just say, I mean, first of all, I'm 6 foot. It's not like I'm a midget here. Let's just clarify that. I mean, wearing full Adidas on a night out is a statement, but I don't judge you for that in any way, shape, or form. And third of all, I never carry wine gums on the go because people will always try and get them off you. So that's just a wine gum rookie error, if you ask me.
But I got a question for you. I've likely never been asked this before, and this is just shows you how highly talented I am as an interviewer. So, Kenny, why don't you tell me about how you created Inside the Ropes?
Well, do you know, it might take me a few minutes to come up with that. The easiest way to explain it is I've always watched wrestling, and then in 2011, I was at an ICW show in Glasgow, and I met this guy, Robert Duffin, who I met to a friend of a friend, and anyway, we started hanging out, and he would come to mine and watch Raw sometimes, whatever, and we just liked wrestling. And then there was this radio show on like a community radio station. I don't know if you guys have them, and I'm sure you do have them in Ireland as well, but community radio stations where it's like, really, really crap content. And it's like, the adverts are like, if you want to play blind tennis on Wednesday, then come along to whatever community hall it is. So there was a wrestling radio show on this community radio station, and it had a couple of wrestlers on it, and it had this journalist guy who went on to rip people off. But anyway, and it was very average to us, and we were kind of like, well, I mean, if that's all that it takes, then maybe we could do a radio show. We didn't know that the lingo was podcast at that point. So we started that in January of 2012, and we had like 10 listeners, and we just kind of we had, I don't know if I should say this. So we had a segment where we made fun of stupid people on the internet who would say wrestling comments, and we called it a very un-PC name. So I'll just leave that at that. It was like, instead of Hulkamania, it was something else that you would associate with somebody who maybe wasn't quite all there and would be on like a special bus. But anyway, so we had all these, but we grew somehow through that, and we started doing a couple of phone interviews, and then we got Vince Russo for an interview in June of 2012, right when he left TNA, and that was a big one because it got a lot of people listening to us from like news sites reporting in the interview. And I think part of the reason why it worked and why the podcast kind of worked is because that was before anybody else really had a podcast. Like wrestlers hadn't started podcasts yet. There was no Jim Ross or Steve Austin or whatever. And we did that for about 18 months, and then I had the idea to start doing live shows in the summer of 2013. So we brought over DDP, and then we did Colt Cabana, and then we did A Night with Sonny, which, you know, luckily we came out STD free, and yeah, it just kind of grew and grew from there. So that was how it started, and people sometimes ask me advice of like how could I do it, and I feel like today it's very hard for people like you and everybody and other people who do podcasts or do radio shows. It's very difficult because I think it's going to take 10 times more work than what we had to do to get half as far on as we did, because we did it before there were wrestling podcasts. So I always feel quite, I always wish I had better advice, but my advice is more just get somebody on and make them say something really controversial, not me, and use it against them so that everybody will listen to it and then listen to you.
Talk to me as well, because of course, Inside the Ropes, YouTube has just recently hit a bit of a milestone of 970 billion subscribers or something approaching that.
But yeah, 90,000. But yeah.
Right. Sorry. But do you think that YouTube can be weirdly stressful? Because from my perspective, I work for, do you know the podcast Keeping It 100 with Conan and Disco Inferno?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I work for that, and I've been running their YouTube for them, and it's driving me mad in that since October we're approaching 2 million views, but I don't think we've even passed 5,000 subscribers.
Right.
So
well, I think the difficulty with YouTube, I mean, so like with us, we made sure that our YouTube was for a long time just live show clips or interview clips, and I guess for us that was kind of, you know, that stuff's quite shareable. A lot of people tend to share that, so that was quite easy for us to do that. But it's difficult. It is difficult to build YouTube channels. It's one of those things that it took us a long time. Like we had to make sure that through all of our videos we've got subscribe basically screaming in your face at every opportunity. Yeah, that's kind of what we've done.
Does YouTube's constant rule changing and like the monetization ever panic you out?
I mean, I think you just need to be very aware of it, don't you? You need to be you need to be consistently watching what the changes are. I mean, there was a change about a year and a half ago where it was like wrestling content wasn't advertiser friendly or something. Yeah. But I mean, we're quite lucky because ours is more just interview clips. It's not wrestling matches, so we don't really fall under it as much. But yeah, they do change their rules quite a lot. I think the thing that's important is to not base all. Like, I think some people base all of their income on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you do that, you could be kind of buggered because then you just never know what's going to happen with it. But YouTube's done pretty well for us so far. So yeah, and it tends to be that video content does so much better than non-video.
Talk to me about it, because of course, as I say, for me running that YouTube, that's my interaction with wrestling fans, or as I call them, cunts. But would you consider this? Would you consider this to be the most negative time, fan-wise, that there is?
Not really. I just think you see it more. Like, I'm pretty sure that if you were a fan in like 1987 in America, like, and there was Twitter, there would be just as many like 35-year-old guys going, Hulk Hogan's the worst. Like, he's so rubbish. He just does a leg drop. He's so shite. Like, you would get that. But it's one of those things where, I mean, like, what I've managed to kind of, I read comments. So chances are if you've said something about me, I've read it. But then I don't know how I developed it, but I can read a comment and kind of go, right, is there a criticism in there that I can work on, or can I just laugh? Like, so I remember the first What Culture video I ever did, and it was and I was like, right, we need to introduce me, because if this random Scottish guy just comes on the channel, it's not going to go well. But they were like, no, we know better. They did not know better. So it's me doing an interview, and it's audio only. You don't even know who I am. And this one guy just wrote, why have you hired a retarded Scottish guy? And I just thought, that's great. Why have you hired a retarded Scottish guy? Because there's no context for me. So all of a sudden, so I find the digs and the kind of like jabs at me quite funny. Like, oh, the other week, this is my favorite one. This guy Michael somebody, right? So it was on like, what was the video? Oh, we put it up like a week. The Heyman clip about the CM Punk pipe bomb from Chicago, and we'd asked him at New Orleans. So the clip is basically me saying, I think that I begin it by saying, Paul, I was wondering that, when CM Punk left and then you came in and did the pipe bomb, and that was how it started. And this Wankstain just decided to write, any interviewer who starts a question with "you wondered" is just showing what an amateur they are. And that day I was just feeling like a fight, so I just went, Michael, please regale me with your advice so I can improve myself as an interviewer. I'm sitting under your learning tree. And then he wrote like 5 or 6 things like, I've been doing interviews since 2008. Well, you need to be fucking Poirot to find them because there's nothing online. So I kind of enjoy the negativity in some ways, but you do have to switch it off. And so if we do a video, like the real test of whether it's good or not to like the people who are watching it is the thumbs up and the thumbs down, right? If it's got like 1,000 thumbs up and 10 thumbs down, then we know people like it, no matter whether there's bad comments or good comments. But I think people are like, to get to your original thing, I think people feel that they can say a lot more than they used to. But yeah, it's just keyboard warriors. I mean, I know Mum's Basement's kind of the joke that everybody likes to use, but yeah, just angry people.
But I got to ask you about this guy, because of course there's sort of I guess you call it an indie boom or whatever in America, but wrestling's gone very into the more entertainment side than it would be what we were probably used to back in the 90s. But I got to ask you about Orange Cassidy. Like, what's your take on this guy?
So like Orange Cassidy's not for me. Like, he's not. I'm not like. I mean, but in saying that, like Orange Cassidy, I do see the appeal of him. Like, it's not for me, but I see the appeal. Joey Ryan, set him on fire and throw him in the bin. I mean, he just like, because the thing about Joey Ryan is like, it's not even the dick stuff. It's the idea that Joey Ryan, he does the dick stuff, which is, look, it's not for me, but go for it, right? The thing for me about Joey Ryan, do what you want to do the dick stuff, that's fine. But he has this kind of like attitude online of, I'm above everyone else and I'm better than everyone else. And like, well, I support the gay community. Well, look, I'm in the gay community and I don't support you. Fuck off. Right? I don't need someone who is straight that gets fans to pay people to touch their dick to tell me about what community I should be in so he rubs me up the wrong way. But I think that the thing about Orange Cassidy is fine and he's fun, but I think that if he was gonna become bigger, if he was gonna become a bigger deal and be a mainstream level star, he probably would need to change his act. Would be my only thing.
Because the way I would compare him is to the Austin Powers films. Because it's like when you see Austin Powers 1, you think, now that's funny, that is entertaining. But then when you see Austin Powers 2, you go, oh, it was kind of the same joke now. And then with Austin Powers 3, you think, well, this is so unfunny, I don't even think the first one was funny anymore.
But do you think it's more like, if you like, tell me a movie series that you love, any movie series.
Let's go with Avengers.
Okay, so like, you love Avengers, right? I go and see them kind of like, what's the word? Like passively. I'm not like a huge Avengers fan, but I'll go. And I think sometimes if you're a big fan of a series, you're willing to give it more of a pass on certain things. So I think if someone's like a massive Orange Cassidy fan, they're gonna probably give him a pass whatever he does. Because people like you and me, if we're not like huge fans of him, we could be like, well, I've seen the joke now. Like, what are you gonna do next? So I think in front of like 500 people in an indie show, it's a fun act. I just don't know how you would upgrade it to be, mainstream.
Well, of course, as you say, with Inside the Ropes, doing a lot of live shows, my favorite part is when I get to meet the wrestlers to see just how much smaller these people are than my incredible body. But when I went to see Shawn Michaels, there was this very awkward moment with this fucking weirdo Mark fan who it seemed like he was trying to provoke Shawn Michaels into a fight. And it's that time when you get to speak to him and you say, your couple of minutes talking to them. And his question to Sean was, he goes, "So, what's your opinion on the horrible treatment that WWE has done to the legacy of Chris Benoit?"
Oh God.
Exactly. So the question I got for you is, what's your favorite stories of the weird run-ins with the fans at Inside the Ropes?
Weird run-ins. Well, first of all, this was not to do with live shows, but I'll tell you just because it's kind of similar. But like on Saturday night, I was going out to a friend's birthday, and in Glasgow we have like a subway, a tube system, and I got on it, and I'm sitting. It's like 3 stops, and we've stopped at one place, and I'm just sitting. It's like we're not at a stop, we're like on the way, and this guy, I can see it left corner of my eye. He just comes and sits beside me while I have headphones in. He goes, "Are you the fella from Inside the Ropes?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." He was like, "Big fan." But he wasn't leaving at that point. We were now having conversation from then on, which was fine. And then he proceeded to just tell me about how he's trying to save his relationship, and he's from London, but he's up in Glasgow trying to like save the relationship with his girlfriend. So he's taking it to a gay club. I don't know how that's going to save it, but he was weird, but he was funny. It shows. I actually remember at Shawn Michaels, I think it was in Belfast. This lovely young guy had come up and he said, "Oh, can I just ask you a question? I've got a gift that I'd like to give Sean when I go up to the front of the queue. Is it okay to give him?" I said, "Well, it should be. What is it you're going to give him?" And he said, "It's a hunting knife." And he pulls out this hunting knife, like it was in a case, and I was like, "Look, I'm 99.9% sure that you mean it in the nice possible way. I can't let you give him a knife, though." I was like, "So I'll give him it, like, and then you can." Like, I'll go right now to the front of the queue and show him the gift, and then you can tell him when you get to the front of the queue it's from you. And he was like, "Oh, okay." But I was like, "Can you imagine if he walked up and like stabbed Shawn Michaels and that was on my watch? Like that would not be great." And then the other one would be we were doing a Paul Heyman show in Glasgow, and someone had done this like painting of Heyman, and like it was going for like £200 because the guy had spent weeks on it and whatever. And somebody had bought it. This guy had bought it, and then Heyman was doing this bit on the tour where he was doing a conspiracy theory about the streak, right? About how what if Brock Lesnar went into business for himself and blah blah blah. Heyman being Heyman, and Heyman said, what if Brock went into business for himself, and this guy who had bought this painting shouted bullshit, and so Heyman just stopped the show, and he went, no, that's fine. I've stopped the show. People have paid money to hear you talk. Go. And then the guy would start talking and go, no. They paid to hear me, not you. Sit down, shut the fuck up. And then the guy was escorted out of the building because he heckled. And then we found out later he was the guy that had bought the painting. I'm like, can you imagine spending £200 on a painting and then like whatever it was for a VIP, £100 or whatever, £300, and then you decide to heckle the guy that you like?
But I gotta ask you as well about like the new big thing in wrestling is AEW, and for me personally, I'm not a fan, and I think that their fan base, it's like I love Star Wars. Believe it or not, if this T-shirt doesn't give it away, but with Star Wars, do you ever get when you go to see one of the films and then there's a grown adult dressed up as Yoda at the midnight showing and he's crying with excitement? Well, that's the way I see AEW fans. So the question I would ask for is, what do you think about the fact that AEW fans are so hyper overly praising everything and ignoring all criticism while shitting on anything WWE does?
I mean, look, you're always going to have a portion of that with whatever fan. Like, there are WWE fans who will not say that WWE do anything wrong. There's people who hate everything that WWE does. I think with AEW, I've watched the first couple of shows. I've been impressed with overall how they've done. And I think no matter who you are, like it's good for wrestling that they're around. But I think a lot of the reason that maybe some people are not shitting on them or being very overly positive is because they really want them to succeed. They really want it to get better because, I mean, WWE's been a slog this year. It really has, more so than I can remember. So I think a lot of people just want WWE to sort of be challenged or to be, get a kick up the arse. And I think that's maybe more why, the sane, intelligent people are maybe be more into AEW. But The big test is going to be in October when they go on TV, and you know, I assume Jericho is going to be the champion when they go on TNT, because that would make sense. He's the big name that they've got. So, I hope they do well. I'm rooting for them, and you know, the Orange Cassidy thing you mentioned earlier on, that's where it's going to be interesting of how much of the kind of they're trying to do something for everybody, and eventually you're going to have to kind of cut the dross that aren't working. So like that Michael Nakazawa and Jed DeBailey match or whatever from the pre-show at Fyter Fest, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It was so bad, but I don't think that they're under any illusion that it was good. You know, apparently he's the CEO of that gaming festival, so like they got the gaming festival gig because the guy was like, "Can I wrestle in your pre-show?" and they let him. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think the big test will be in October. Can they do 2 hours of TV that people want to go back and watch each week?
Yeah, to me, it's like praising Star Wars Episode 9 already. It's like, well, let's wait, because we did that with Episode 8 and it was a bit of a letdown. But I gotta ask you this in regards to AEW. Now they're AEW, they're very pro liberal politically. You know, I guess some people call it SJW instead of AEW. And as you say, you're part of the gay community, and hope you had a good Pride Month, by the way. But does that actually matter to you? The way, see, AEW is very, we're pushing Sunny Kiss and we're pushing women and all this stuff. But surely at the end of the day, what we want as viewers is an entertaining show.
Yeah, no, I mean you're right. I mean, I think there's a lot more to it in the sense of like this. So Sunny Kiss, for example, I've only seen Sunny Kiss at that Battle Royal on the pre-show, so I don't know if Sunny Kiss is really good or not. So like, I'm still willing to give him a shot. I think you're right that you shouldn't just have people like, you shouldn't just have a performer because they're gay. You should have them because they're good and they so happen to be gay or whatever. But like Nyla Rose, you know, that Nyla Rose is a trans woman. I actually thought she did really well at Fyter Fest. And we put a video up about her, and some of the comments are just like, why does it bother you that much? Like, did she like why like even if you're like, I don't understand the trans thing or whatever it is, like, why be so angry about something that's got nothing to do with your world or what's going on or whatever? I think that where they're being clever right now is WWE going to Saudi Arabia is, I mean, I don't know what you think, but it's a tough pill to swallow in some ways. Do you know what I mean? It's very like, you know, they're Saudi Arabia are being accused on international media of, you know, chopping up journalists and stuff and all this kind of thing. WWE are going and everybody's making a lot of money. It feels quite dirty, but I think because it's so public, it's harder to kind of ignore it. With AEW, what they're doing is they're kind of going, well, hey, we're just gonna kind of be for everybody, I guess, and that's going to work to their advantage in some ways and not in others. But you know, it's like you talked about earlier, like people are so negative right now that I like the idea of a promotion being like, you know, we're just kind of, everybody's kind of welcome to come and try things out. If we're 9 months down the line and you've got a Sunny Kiss or whatever, and they're not good and they're there as a sort of just a poster of whatever it is, then that's a problem, I think. But yeah, they're trying to be a far more liberal promotion than WWE are, and I don't know how that's going to go, because I mean, so for example, with WWE, if you noticed that like every other president that America's ever had, WWE have mentioned the president multiple times, whether it's Bill Clinton or George Bush or Barack Obama, they have not once mentioned Trump at all. Like, to the point where when Bobby Lashley came back, they didn't even show Trump in the Battle of the Billionaires. Like, that's unheard of. So, I mean, it's everybody's kind of, it's right now. It feels like if you don't agree with somebody, like you have to just hate each other, and so I don't know how that's all going to play out. But yeah, AEW are trying a different strategy than WWE, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
I've got another one of my lazy questions here for you, Kenny. So, of course, people are always asking you guys requests for, why don't you book this person? Why don't you book that person? But who would be for you the dream person? And for my quick answer, I'm going to say Steve Austin. But so who would be the one person you'd be like, I need to get that person on Inside the Rope show?
Well, it's funny because I booked The Undertaker, and that was the dream, and it became the biggest nightmare I've ever had. It was a horrible experience, the worst experience I've ever had. I hated it. I hated every moment of it. I hated that I had to basically spend all the money that I'd ever made to bring over Mick Foley to try and save it, and I still had people telling me that I was a criminal for trying to like save it and like all this kind of stuff. But it's the Undertaker thing's really soured me on doing anything that big again, because the risk is so high, and then like it so. But then I mean, Austin is obviously one, but then Austin's got 2 kids who live in England, and he's never visited them. So if he's never, I mean, I don't. Maybe they've gone over and saw him. I don't know, but I think that the idea of that is probably more of a pipe dream. I think that if for a couple of realistic ones, I'd love to do a tour with Kane one day. I think that'd be great. And also, I think that if he ever gets back into wrestling, I think a tour with CM Punk would be brilliant.
I hate him.
Well, I mean, look, you don't have to come to that one, but I don't think the Austin one is realistic, because he's never traveled before. To me, if he was going to have done it, he'd have done it by now.
Yeah. So
it's like I just don't really allow myself to think about it, because it's like people go, "Have you ever thought about booking Steve Austin?" No, never thought about it. never crossed my mind.
It's like, why would I want The Rock? He stinks.
Yeah, The Rock's rubbish.
Yeah.
But it's like, Batista did. Batista was supposed to do, and I love Big Dave, right? Big Dave, he's brilliant. But he was supposed to do a Comic-Con in London last year, and he pulled out 3 days before, and didn't even put a tweet out about it. So if you're a Comic-Con, you can get away with that. If that was me, that would end Inside the Ropes.
Yeah.
So those risks are just ones that are like, from my point of view, I know these are not the sexy answers that people want, but for me, that's just kind of, I'd rather be doing this for another 20 years than, shoot my load on one that just doesn't work, and then I end up working in the call center in 2 years with a guy going, "Did you used to do the podcasts?" Cue me slitting my wrists in the fucking toilet.
Well, speaking of toilets, we've now come to the big 3 questions here, and everybody gets asked these questions, and there's right and wrong answers to these questions.
Right. Who decides the right and wrong answers? Is that you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, right.
I'm quite a big deal in this podcast. Who's better, Tupac or Wu-Tang Clan?
From my very, 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 very limited knowledge of that genre of music, I'm gonna go with Wu-Tang Clan. I think Wu-Tang Clan.
That's correct. Who is better, Queen or the Beatles?
This might be controversial. Queen all day, every day.
That's also correct. But this is where it all hangs on this final question.
Okay.
And if this does end, no 90,000 subscribers, no Inside the Ropes, no 100% confirmed live show tour with Batista and Steve Austin, which is what you just said a few seconds ago.
Yeah, same time in Belfast, 20 VIP.
It's a Belfast only show. The Spice Girls are back. Who is your favorite Spice Girl?
Oh, that's a tough one. Okay, well, I mean, right. We're obviously going to eliminate Posh Spice straight away. Let's get that out of the way right now.
I agree.
Then we're left with 4. Baby Spice is a bit dull, so we're gonna chop her off the block as well. I don't think that's what you wanted me to say, but it's true. So then we're left with Scary, Ginger, or Sporty. Got to get rid of Sporty as well. So it's between Scary and Ginger. I think I'd have to pick. I think I'd have to pick Mel B, Scary Spice. She would be the one, because she'd be cracking banter on a night out. Even though she's not my type, I think you'd be pleased. Looks great. She's nuts, and she, I think she looks like great fun. So I'm gonna pick her. Well, I guess you wanted me to pick Baby Spice, but that was who you wanted me to.
Yeah, I'm sorry you gave the wrong answer, Kenny.
So basically, you wanted me to pick who you wanted to have sex with. That's what you wanted me to do.
That is a vulgar the thing to say. I would take a BJ from her. I mean, why, or maybe a hand job. So why does it have to be sex? You're sexist.
This just did not end the way I thought it was going to end, but you do you.
Uh, can I ask one favor from you, by the way?
Sure.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I work for the Conan and Disco Inferno podcast.
Uh-huh.
Disco's been the previous guest. Uh, Conan refuses to do it because it's his words. You're a dick, bro.
Right.
But now I was able to get Disco on because anytime I had a guest on, I would get them to make a short promo / request for Disco to come on. It worked. Disco and I are now best friends. I'm sure
Right.
you've heard all the stories. So now I'm starting with guests to record requests for Conan to come on. Would
Okay.
you mind doing that?
So you want me to just say something that's basically calling him out to come on your show?
Yes, and if you could mention that he and I are best friends. And
Okay.
plus, of course, mention you're from Inside the Ropes, the Steve Austin show.
Okay. So it's called the Hughezy podcast. That's the title.
Yeah.
Okay. Conan, it's Kenny McIntosh. I'm sure you're familiar with my work. 90,000 subscribers on YouTube, Inside the Ropes. Good friends with Vince McMahon. But look, I've heard. I loved you in WCW, Bowdy, and all that stuff. NWO, you kept the NWO afloat, my man. You kept it afloat. MLW, they wouldn't be getting a resurgence if it wasn't for you. But then I hear that you're not coming on the Hughezy show podcast, right? I hear that you guys are best friends. I mean, look, I know that he should maybe be on a register of some kind, but look, throw the guy a bone, throw him something. Just go on his podcast for 5 minutes, pretend to be interested in any of his rubbish questions, and only bad can come of it. But otherwise, all I can do is tell you what's happened to me. He has stalked me for 2 years, and now I've done his podcast, and now I'm going to be left alone. So if you just do it and get it out of the way, then you can move on with your life. You don't have to be hounded by him anymore. So the short gist of it is just man up, Conan, get a set of balls and go on his podcast.
That's perfect, Kenny.
Okay.
Listen, I want to thank you for your time. I've been a fan of you for ages. And I look forward to meeting you again in October for this mystery show.
Yeah, I think you'll like it.